If you want a Rode wireless microphone to sound professional, but mainly avoid those very common mistakes, these 8 tips are gonna make a huge difference. I've been using these microphones for years for client work and also content creation, and they can be perfect or a disaster if set up wrong. Not every microphone has all the features I'm gonna mention, but most of them apply across the lineup. So I'm sure you're gonna get something out of this video. Let's get started. The first tip is gonna be about gain assist and how to manage audio levels. And this one is kind of split into 2 different steps. First one is if you're seeing in the camera that the audio levels are way too low, there are 2 places you can increase it. One is in the microphone, and the second one is in the camera itself. And it's just easier to raise it in the camera, but it's the worst place to do it. This is 20 in the camera and minus 12 dB in the microphone. It's probably too loud. Now this is 12 in the camera and minus 12 in the microphone. And the levels are about right, but we should use more of the amp in the microphone. So ideally you should set the camera to the lowest possible and then adjust the microphone so that you can see the audio levels on the camera reaching about 2/3 of the way. This is the minimum level in the camera, it's 1 and it's 0 dB in the microphone. How does it sound? If they are a bit past the middle and definitely not reaching red, you're gonna be in a good shape. Now this was the first part because it's assuming the person speaking is gonna keep a constant level, which is definitely not true sometimes. And for that, in most recent updates, we got the gain assist function. It just tries to equalize the audio levels by raising it or lowering it if necessary. It is available in all of these models here. And there are basically 2 settings that you can choose from, automatic and dynamic. Rode actually recommends to use automatic, which should be good for most occasions. Now in my case, I always use dynamic even when shooting outside because it makes the voice sound a little bit more natural and it never made any kind of crazy fluctuation in the levels. This is how it sounds when gain assist is set to dynamic, which is my preferred way of using it. And this is how it sounds when gain assist is set to auto, but still sounds really good. So which one do you prefer? But you can test it for yourself and see what suits you best. But definitely use it. Now this is a massive one and so important that I created a dedicated video that you can watch up here. But I'm going to summarize and improve on some points here in this video. Basically, whenever you have more than one transmitter, or if your receiver also has a microphone, you have more than one input of audio. And the output is always going to be one video file in your camera that has the left and right channels. So your first and simplest option is using merged. As the name says, it's just going to merge all the sources of audio inside the same file. And when you hear it, it's gonna be in stereo. From both sides, you're gonna hear everything. It's easy and fast to use, but it can cause some complications because you can't treat the audio separately anymore.
What are you doing?
That's when split mode can save you. Because now if you have 2 transmitters, each audio is gonna go onto a different channel. And yes, in post you're gonna hear them only on one side, but you can treat them and then duplicate very easily. Merge mode has one additional trick. In some models you can use the safety channel. This means normal level recording on one channel and a minus 20 dB version on the other one. So if you have a very loud peak, you can save it by using the other version. Kinda obsolete after the first tip with the gain assist, but it depends on the model you have. One extra point about this is when you have 2 transmitters and the receiver also has a microphone. Because in this case, you actually have 3 sources of audio and only 2 places to store them. So this means that no matter what, you're always gonna have at least 2 audios mixed in one channel. Never a true split mode. So be sure before recording to check exactly the settings you need. Adjusting the brightness on the receiver screen or the LEDs in the transmitter can avoid unnecessary attention to the microphone when interviewing someone. In a brighter situation or when the microphone kinda mixes with the clothes well, you don't see it that much. But in other scenarios, they can be really visible. All you gotta do is go to the Rode Central and set the transmitter and the receiver to dim the screens and the LEDs when you want. When talking about positioning the microphone, there's no right or wrong. It really depends on how much you wanna hide the microphone and which kind of clothes your talent is using. There are mainly 3 ways of using it. One of them is just by clipping the microphone onto the clothes. Best scenario, your talent has a jacket and you can just clip it sideways. Remembering the microphones are always omnidirectional, so it doesn't matter if you position it sideways or upwards. It's gonna be the same. If they don't, pockets are gonna be your best allies. And if no luck there, the collar is gonna be the last place. Now there, it really depends on the fabric, if it's going to fold down the shirt or not. And here, pay a lot of attention because it's going to flip the shirt to the heavier side. And if it's outwards, it's gonna look bad, but it works. If it's inwards, the microphone might be obstructed by the skin. If you wanna avoid this kind of trouble, the magnet is a very good solution, like I'm using right now. You have a magnetic clip to attach to the transmitter and another magnetic piece to put on the inside of the clothes. Or outside if you decide to flip it around. Now, I've had issues with the microphone inside touching the fabric and making noise. But I have friends that have used it many times without any issues. Depends on how fast are the situations in which you're recording and how much you want to risk. Last but not least, you can just use a lavalier microphone connected to the transmitter so that this can just go into the pocket or out of the frame. Just remember, the volumes are going to be different if you use it like this or with a lav, so you have to set up accordingly. And especially if you have two people, one with and the other one without the lavalier, then the gain assist we talked before is going to be even more useful. Also setting the microphones to split. You see, these tips are all connected. Now, charging and power management. It doesn't matter which version of the Rode Wireless you have, you're going to have at least two pieces. These are four. Two pieces. At least one receiver and one transmitter. And don't get me wrong, because battery life is great on these, but you're never going to get to the end of a full recording day with the battery in the green. And if you're someone like me that gets a little bit anxious about that, there are some recharging solutions. By far the best one, but that can be a little bit more expensive, is getting one of these recharging cases for the Rode Wireless. Because in this way you charge the case itself, and whenever you're not using it, you can just plug them in, and even if you're walking around, you're on the go, they're going to be charging. Also, this easily allows you to charge all of them at once. When I was using only the Rode Wireless Go 1, I adopted one other solution that can be useful to you also, which is using a split cable. You can get a simple one from Amazon, like this one with 2 ends or 3 ends, so that you can charge them all at the same time. It is not perfect, maybe you're gonna have to leave them charging on the floor somewhere, but it's a solution. Just get the charging case. Always recording or manual recording. Now, this is for the versions that have internal recording on the transmitter itself. It sounds intuitive that you always want it to be recording, but there are some things to consider. When you're always recording, there's no chance you're gonna miss anything. But if you're not organized, the post-production can be a nightmare. Remember, the audio is always going to the video file on the camera, but this one is going to be affected by the communication between the transmitter and the receiver. If at some point this fails, it's when you're gonna need the recording inside the transmitter. And in the Wireless Pro, for example, it caps at 1 hour. This means that suddenly, for that 1-minute video clip that you just needed a little piece of audio, you're gonna have to search through 1 hour of audio to find where is it. First solution is trying to sync the audio file from here with the one in the camera if it's not completely mute. They're gonna match, and now you have the missing piece. If for any reason that's not working, you're gonna have to do it manually. Now, two better solutions are inserting markers or starting a new recording from the receiver or the transmitter. In my case, for example, I can just press the upper record button on the transmitter and it's going to start a new file. If you're filming someone else, you can set the O button on the receiver to start a new file on all the transmitters, or to insert a marker so that you know when all of them started a new take. With a new audio file, you're simply gonna see another file in the Rode Central. And the markers are gonna be these flags above the waveforms that are going to indicate whenever you press the button. Meaning also you started a new take, or you just wanted to indicate something at that point. If you choose to use manual mode, it means that on the receiver you're gonna have to start and stop the recordings. They're always gonna be available in the camera itself, but the internal recordings are gonna stop. Okay, we talked about the recording buttons, but there are some extra functions that can be accessed using the O button in the transmitter and the receiver. In the transmitter, you could set it to do markers or even mute the transmitter. One good example for markers is when I do too many retakes of the same lines and I just want to indicate for myself in post-production that that's a critical part of the video, that I just need to find the right take. The other option here is to allow mute. And this one is a bit critical, so you really need to pay attention when to enable that. It's going to be about how much you trust the interviewed person. Bonus tip, because I don't want to let you go without an extra tip. And this sounds simple, but a lot of people forget that you can download the Rode Central app in your smartphone and control everything by plugging an USB-C cable in your receiver. And this is really handy because sometimes you just can't see the receiver screen very well, you don't remember exactly where something is in the menu. And with the Rode Central app, you see all the settings on the receiver and also on the transmitters. Also, for your talent and whoever else is beside you, it just looks professional. You're just checking your settings using an app on a smartphone. So you gain a little bit of time to disable that mute button you forgot turned on. Alright, so if you found this was useful in any way, please leave it a like and go watch this video over here, in which I break down all the features of the Rode Wireless Pro, which are actually quite similar to the Rode Wireless Go 3. So if you're thinking about one or the other, or you just want to know the options and the features you're missing out, check it out. It's gonna be super useful. Thanks a lot for watching. Let me know in the comments if you have any doubts, and I'll see you over there.